There's a reason the Tongchild fossil changed how we see human evolution, and it wasn't just about bones. And did you know bananas can glow bright blue under ultraviolet light? I'm the useless guy, and stay tuned as I count down strange facts you definitely didn't learn in school.
So many questions. Why is the world spinning? Why is the moon keeping its orbit? Can rockets fly backwards? The facts you didn't know you needed. The Useless Show.
Echolalia is the automatic repetition of words or phrases just heard. It appears in autism, Tourette syndrome, and brain injury. The term comes from the Greek echo and lalia, meaning speech. Neurologist Theodore Heller first described similar behavior in 1904. Modern studies use echolalia to understand how the brain processes and mirrors language. In 1960, Theodore Mauman built the first working laser at Hughes Research Laboratory, California. He used a synthetic ruby crystal that emitted light at 694 nanometers, producing a narrow red beam. Though its debut seemed modest, this device later shaped technologies in barcode scanners, eye surgery, and fiber optic communication. The breakthrough marked the beginning of applied quantum electronics. In September 1492, near the Sargasso Sea, Columbus's crew saw glowing water at night. The effect was caused by dinoflagellates, tiny plankton that emit bioluminescence when disturbed. Today, similar glowing bays exist in Vieques, Puerto Rico, and Halong Bay, Vietnam. Columbus's notes are among the earliest European records of marine bioluminescence. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi introduced flow in 1975 after studying artists who lost track of time while working. Flow occurs when skill and challenge are balanced, leading to deep focus. Musicians, athletes, and programmers often report it. Brain scans show increased dopamine release, linking flow to heightened learning and satisfaction. On January 7, 1948, pilot Thomas Mantell pursued a UFO over Kentucky in a P-51 Mustang. He blacked out from high altitude and crashed. Investigations later identified the object as a skyhook balloon used by the U.S. Navy for atmospheric research. The case became one of the first widely publicized UFO incidents in America. Vestal virgins in Rome were chosen between ages 6 and 10 to serve 30 years in the Temple of Vesta. Their duty was to keep the sacred fire burning. If extinguished, it was considered an omen of Rome's downfall. Punishments for negligence were extreme, including being buried alive. The priesthood ended when Christianity spread under Theodosius in 394 CE. Rusalki and Slavic folklore were female spirits tied to water, often said to be women who died violently. They appear in 19th century Russian literature, such as works by Alexander Pushkin and Nikolai Gogol. Rusalki were believed to dance on riverbanks, comb their hair, and lure passers-by. Their legends varied across Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia. The first ATM was installed at Barclays Bank in London on June 27, 1967. Invented by John Shepherd Barron, it used paper vouchers impregnated with carbon-14 for identification. Customers inserted the slip and entered a PIN to withdraw £10. Actor Reg Varney, star of the sitcom On the Buses, was the first person to use it. Werner Heisenberg presented the uncertainty principle in 1927 at a lecture in Germany. It showed that a particle's position and momentum cannot both be measured precisely. The idea became central to quantum mechanics, influencing Niels Bohr's Copenhagen interpretation. Its mathematical form uses Planck's constant, setting limits on measurement accuracy at atomic scales. In December 1982, surgeon William DeVries implanted the Jarvik 7 artificial heart into Barney Clark in Utah. Clark, a retired dentist, survived 112 days with the air-powered device. The machine weighed 180 kilograms and connected to him through tubes. Though not a permanent solution, it paved the way for later artificial hearts and ventricular assist devices. Riberoia ondatrae is a flatworm parasite common in North America. It infects frog tadpoles by embedding in limb tissue, often causing extra legs or deformities. This increases the chance of frogs being eaten by birds, which are the parasite's next host. The phenomenon was first documented in California wetlands during the 1940s. Aphonia is the inability to produce voice sound due to paralysis or injury of the vocal cords. Some patients can still whisper or develop esophageal speech, moving air through the throat without using vocal folds. Speech therapy or surgical implants are treatments. Famous 19th century cases helped physicians study the mechanics of voice production. The Hubble Space Telescope launched aboard Space Shuttle Discovery in April 1990. Its 2.4-meter mirror had a spherical aberration, blurring images. In December 1993, astronauts installed CoStar corrective optics during a servicing mission. Afterward, Hubble produced landmark images, including the Eagle Nebula's Pillars of Creation, revolutionizing astronomy. The Toledo School of Translators in Spain flourished in the 12th and 13th centuries under Archbishop Raymond. Scholars translated Arabic texts into Latin, including works by Aristotle, Ptolemy, and Avicenna. These texts, preserved in Islamic libraries, reintroduced Greek science and philosophy to medieval Europe, fueling the scholastic movement and later Renaissance learning. Ravana, king of Lanka in the Ramayana, was described with 10 heads and 20 arms. He was a devotee of Shiva, skilled in warfare, music, and Ayurveda. Despite his knowledge, he abducted Sita, leading to a war with Rama. Temples in India and Sri Lanka still depict Ravana in murals, sculptures, and festivals like Dussehra. The reticular activating system, discovered in the mid-20th century, lies in the brainstem. It regulates arousal, attention, and sleep-wake cycles. By filtering sensory input, it prevents overload, allowing focus on relevant stimuli. Malfunctions in the RAS are linked to disorders like narcolepsy and coma. Its role is crucial in maintaining consciousness and alertness. Butterwort plants are small carnivorous species found in Europe, North America, and South America. Their leaves secrete sticky mucilage that traps insects. Once caught, digestive enzymes break down the prey, releasing nutrients like nitrogen. Charles Darwin studied butterworts in 1875, noting their ability to adapt to nutrient-poor bog environments. In July 1911, Yale professor Hiram Bingham reached Machu Picchu with help from local Quechua farmers. Located 2,430 meters above sea level in Peru's Andes, the site included temples, terraces, and stone houses. Built in the 15th century under Inca Emperor Pachacuti, Machu Picchu was unknown to most outsiders until Bingham's expedition publicized it worldwide. Depersonalization disorder causes people to feel detached from their own body, as if watching themselves from outside. First described clinically in the late 19th century, it often occurs during trauma, anxiety, or neurological conditions. Patients report feeling like actors in their own lives, a state that can persist for minutes or even years. In 18th century France, Émilie du Châtelet translated Isaac Newton's Principia Mathematica into French, finishing it in 1749. She not only rendered the mathematics, but added her own commentary on physics and energy conservation. Her edition remains the standard French translation. Du Châtelet was also Voltaire's intellectual partner and one of the era's most brilliant scientific voices. The Sharp QT8B, launched in 1969, was the first pocket calculator. Despite the pocket label, it weighed over 3 pounds and cost about $1,200. Powered by rechargeable batteries, it used integrated circuits developed by Sharp and Rockwell. Within a decade, calculators shrank dramatically in size and price, revolutionizing education and commerce. Clownfish live symbiotically with sea anemones in coral reefs of the Pacific and Indian Oceans. The anemone's stinging tentacles deter predators, while the fish's mucus coating prevents harm. In return, clownfish feed on small invertebrates and leave scraps that nourish the anemone. The relationship became globally famous after Finding Nemo in 2003. Druids in ancient Celtic Britain performed rituals at stone circles, including Stonehenge, built around 2500 BCE. These monuments align with solstices, suggesting a role in astronomical observation. Roman sources describe Druids as priests, judges, and keepers of oral tradition. Archaeology indicates their ceremonies likely blended astronomy, religion, and seasonal agriculture. The Topkapi Palace in 16th century Istanbul housed the Ottoman Sultan's harem, a guarded institution with hundreds of women. At its peak, it included wives, concubines, and servants organized in strict hierarchies. The Valid Sultan, or Queen Mother, often wielded significant political influence, shaping imperial policy from within the palace walls. The sunk cost fallacy is a psychological bias where people continue a failing endeavor because of resources already spent. The term was popularized in the 20th century, though examples appear in history, from prolonged wars to failed business ventures. Economists stress that rational decisions should consider only future costs and benefits, not past losses. Schistosoma is a parasitic worm that infects freshwater snails, altering their biology to release larvae into rivers. These larvae penetrate human skin, causing schistosomiasis, a disease affecting over 200 million people worldwide. Symptoms include anemia, organ damage, and developmental delays. The parasite's complex life cycle has challenged eradication efforts for decades. In 1962, near Sverdlovsk, a Soviet cosmonaut training site accidentally released a cloud of Serratia bacteria dyed red for visibility. Residents saw glowing streaks in the sky, mistaking them for UFOs. The incident fueled Cold War rumors but was later traced to a failed biological experiment, revealing how secrecy fed panic. Hyperlexia is the ability to read words at an unusually early age, often before 5, without equivalent comprehension or communication skills. First identified in 1967, it commonly appears in children with autism spectrum disorder. While decoding text comes easily, understanding language and social interaction may lag, creating a puzzling developmental contrast. In 1984, Chuck Hull invented the first functional 3D printer, using stereolithography. His device used ultraviolet light to harden layers of liquid resin into solid shapes. He patented the process and founded 3D Systems, launching the modern additive manufacturing industry. Today, 3D printing ranges from rapid prototyping to bioprinted organs. Around 300 CE, Japan's Yamato rulers built kofun, massive keyhole-shaped burial mounds stretching up to 500 meters in length. Surrounded by moats and filled with Hanawa clay figures, they signified political power and ritual authority. The largest, Daisenryo Kofun in Osaka, is traditionally attributed to Emperor Nintoku and remains one of the world's biggest tombs. In Aboriginal mythology of northwestern Australia, Wandjina spirits, painted on rock shelters, are bringers of rain and fertility. They are depicted with halo-like heads, large black eyes, and no mouths. These paintings date back at least 4,000 years. Aboriginal communities still regard Wandjina as living presences tied to seasonal cycles. The human amygdala, located in the temporal lobe, is crucial for rapid emotional responses. It reacts to threats before conscious thought, activating fight-or-flight mechanisms within milliseconds. Research shows heightened amygdala activity in anxiety and phobia disorders. Its evolutionary role ensures survival by prioritizing immediate reaction over slow, rational analysis. The Voder, built by Bell Labs, was the first electronic voice synthesizer. Demonstrated at the 1939 New York World's Fair, it used 15 keys and pedals to simulate vowels, consonants, and intonation. Operators trained for months to produce intelligible speech. The Voder laid groundwork for modern text-to-speech and digital assistants. In late 18th century France, Franz Mesmer promoted animal magnetism, claiming invisible forces could cure illness. His seances involved iron rods, water tubs, and group trances. Though discredited by a commission including Benjamin Franklin, mesmerism influenced early ideas of hypnosis and psychotherapy, showing how theatrical science captivated Enlightenment Europe. Apraxia is a neurological disorder where people cannot perform learned movements despite healthy muscles. Causes include stroke, dementia, or brain injury. For example, a patient may understand how to tie shoes but cannot physically carry out the sequence. The condition helped neurologists map motor planning functions in the brain's parietal and frontal lobes. Around 2500 BCE, the Harappan civilization of India carved shells into pottery, embedding dazzling inlays that shimmered like hidden constellations. These fragments, found in sites like Mohenjo-daro, reveal artisans wielding precision that seems almost supernatural. The patterns, geometric and hypnotic, whisper of a society where beauty was not luxury but sacred order in clay. Beneath the desert sands of the Sahara lies a patient assassin, the horned viper. With only its horns and eyes exposed, it waits motionless. When prey draws near, the serpent strikes in an instant, faster than the blink of a human eye. Its silent ambush has haunted desert travelers for centuries. In Celtic legend, a chilling sound pierces the night, the banshee's wail. Her cry, long and mournful, drifts across moors and glens, foretelling death within noble Irish families. Tales speak of spectral women washing blood-stained clothes at twilight. To hear her voice was to know fate's hand had already closed. Astatine, the rarest of Earth's elements, is too unstable to gather in a vial. At any moment, less than a single gram exists naturally across the planet. Born of uranium's decay, it flickers briefly before vanishing into radiation. Chemists call it the element that isn't there, a ghost of the periodic table. In 2016, SpaceX raised a steel track in the desert, a corridor of silence and speed. Here, the Hyperloop concept took its first breath, propelling pods through near-vacuum tubes. Though experimental, the test shimmered with promise. A future where human travel rivals the velocity of sound, transforming distance into illusion. Deep within the Amazon swims the candiru, a parasitic fish smaller than a finger, yet infamous in myth. Drawn to urea, it follows urine streams with uncanny precision. Rare cases tell of its entry into the human body, spines locking in place, inflicting agony so grotesque it borders on legend. The Zygarnik effect is the mind's restless echo. Tasks unfinished linger in memory, sharp and persistent, while completed ones fade. First observed in 1927 by psychologist Bluma Zygarnik, it explains why cliffhangers torment us and why checklists soothe. The unfinished becomes a ghost in the brain, demanding closure. In Yoruba mythology, Ogun, the god of iron, strides with hammer and blade. Revered by blacksmiths, warriors, and hunters, he embodies strength, craftsmanship, and raw force. His worship stretches back centuries in West Africa, where iron itself was sacred. To invoke Ogun was to summon fire, steel, and relentless will. In 1978, the Teal Photon appeared, a calculator powered not by batteries, but by sunlight. Its panel absorbed light, turning it into numbers flickering on a tiny screen. Primitive, yet revolutionary, it showed a future where even the simplest tools might borrow energy from the stars themselves to solve human sums. Blind sight bends reality. A blind person, unaware of sight, still senses objects. First documented in the 1970s, it occurs when the brain's visual pathways bypass damaged eyes, creating unconscious perception. Patients deny seeing, yet dodge obstacles or detect shapes. It is vision stripped of awareness, a ghost sense haunting the brain. In 1964, Robert Moog unveiled the modular synthesizer, a towering wall of wires and dials. Unlike any instrument before, it could sculpt sound from electricity itself. Musicians twisted knobs to conjure alien tones and thunderous bass. This machine birthed electronic music, its echo resounding in everything from Kraftwerk to modern pop. Inuit mythology tells of Sedna, betrayed by her father on stormy seas. As she clung to his kayak, he severed her fingers, each piece sinking into the ocean to become seals, whales, and walruses. From her watery grave, she reigns as sea goddess, her grief feeding the Arctic's hunters forever. In 1925, German chemists discovered rhenium, a metal as rare as myth hidden in molybdenite ore. Named for the Rhine River, it withstands extreme heat, making it vital for jet engines and rockets. Scarce and stubborn to extract, rhenium embodies power drawn from Earth's deepest veins to fuel flight itself. Inattentional blindness blinds us not through darkness, but through focus. When attention narrows, the obvious vanishes. Experiments show people counting basketball passes fail to notice a person in a gorilla suit. The phenomenon reveals a haunting truth. We see less than we think, our minds sculpting reality like fragile glass. In 1992, astronomers gazed upon a wonder, planet circling a pulsar, PSRB 1257+12. Born from supernova fire, these worlds orbit a corpse star, their skies lit by deadly radiation. To find planets in such hellish places shattered assumptions. Even in cosmic ruin, creation finds a way, etching life's possibility into the void. In the ruins of Pompeii and Herculaneum, archaeologists unearthed Roman surgical kits, bronze specula, scalpels, and bone saws. Crafted 2 millennia ago, they mirror instruments still used today. Roman medicine, far from primitive, blended practical skill with anatomical insight. These tools whisper of surgeons laboring beneath volcanic skies, fighting death with bronze. In 2016, in a recycling plant in Japan, scientists discovered Ideonella sakaiensis, a bacterium unlike any other. It feasts on PET plastic, secreting enzymes that break bottles into food. At a time when oceans drown in waste, this microscopic ally hints at salvation, nature arming itself against humanity's excess. The Japanese giant salamander lurks in mountain rivers, a living relic from prehistory. Reaching 1.5 meters, it secretes a sticky mucus that smells of pepper when threatened. For centuries, legends told of river monsters dragging fishermen under. In truth, the creature endures quietly, one of Earth's last great amphibians. In 2019, the world saw the unseeable, the first photograph of a black hole. Captured by the Event Horizon Telescope, it revealed the monstrous shadow in galaxy M87, a void 6.5 billion times heavier than the Sun. Humanity's gaze pierced the abyss, and for the first time, darkness had a face. In the 1960s, Soviet scientists began a daring experiment, breeding silver foxes for tameness. Within generations, the once feral creatures wagged tails, licked hands, and even grew spotted coats like dogs. The project, led in Siberia by Dmitry Belyaev, revealed how domestication can reshape not just behavior, but biology itself. On the windswept Orkney Islands lies Skara Brae, a Neolithic village preserved for 5 millennia. Its stone houses still contain beds, hearths, and shelves carved into the walls. Buried by sand until rediscovered in 1850, it offers a haunting window into daily life long before written history began. In the silent jungles, some pitcher plants strike alliances with bats. The plant offers a hollow roost shielded from predators. In return, the bat's droppings fall into the plant's pitcher, delivering nitrogen. It is a pact of survival, one creature trading shelter, the other nourishment, sealed in evolutionary balance. Rising from Mali's dusty earth stands the Great Mosque of Djenné, a towering fortress of mud brick. Built in the 13th century, it remains the world's largest earthen structure. Each year, thousands gather to replaster its walls by hand, a ritual binding community, faith, and architecture into one living monument. In the grand halls of Paris, a pendulum once swayed silently under the dome of the Pantheon. In 1851, Léon Foucault's suspended weight revealed Earth's rotation before astonished crowds. The pendulum's swing held to a fixed plane in space, while the Earth turned beneath it. A simple motion became a revelation. The planet itself was moving underfoot. From the Indus Valley, small carved seals show a mysterious beast, a unicorn-like figure never found in nature. Crafted 4,000 years ago, these symbols remain undeciphered, their purpose uncertain. Were they religious icons, trade markers, or political emblems? The unicorn of the Indus endures as one of history's enigmas. High in the canopy, Oripendula birds weave pendulous nests that dangle like woven lanterns. Each can stretch nearly 2 meters, swaying with the wind. Dozens hang together in colonies on towering trees. The sight is both eerie and magnificent, an aerial village of woven cradles suspended above the forest floor. In Copan, an ancient Mayan city, stone stelae stand like frozen sentinels. Their surfaces bear intricate hieroglyphs recounting dynasties from the 5th to 9th centuries. Each monument is a chapter in stone, chronicling rulers, wars, and rituals. Together, they form one of the most detailed records of Maya history. From Central Africa comes the Ishango bone, carved over 20,000 years ago. Its tally marks form patterns resembling multiplication, division, and prime numbers. Found near the headwaters of the Nile, this slender fragment of bone is not just a tool, but humanity's earliest known whisper of mathematics. The red panda, cloaked in fiery fur, clings to bamboo groves of the Himalayas. Though its name suggests kinship with the giant panda, it is closer to raccoons. Revered in Nepal as firefox, its lineage tells of ancient divergence, a creature balanced between myth, charm, and endangered reality. In Kenya's Kakamega forest, a bat clicks through darkness with ultrasonic cries, building a picture no human eye can see. Its natural sonar rivals technology, guiding it through the tangled canopy. This rare species transforms echoes into vision, a reminder that nature's ingenuity predates our inventions by millennia. Brazil's Mata Atlântica harbors creatures found nowhere else on Earth. Thousands of species cling to its shrinking fragments, many still unknown to science. Once stretching across the coast, now reduced to a fraction. It is a living library at the edge of erasure. The starfish is a patient predator with a grotesque trick. It ejects its stomach, draping it over mussels and clams. Digestive juices liquefy the prey before the stomach is drawn back inside. A creature without a brain performs a feat so alien it blurs the boundary between hunger and horror. In New Zealand's forests, the kakapo, a flightless nocturnal parrot, awaits the rimu tree's rare fruiting. Some years, the trees remain barren and no chicks are born. When the fruit finally comes, the forest echoes with booming courtship calls. Survival itself is tied to the rhythm of an unpredictable tree. In Ice Age Europe, the Solotrian people napped stone into laurel leaf blades so thin they seemed translucent. Crafted 20,000 years ago, their symmetry rivals modern engineering. Archaeologists still debate their use: tools, weapons, or symbols of mastery. Each blade is a frozen testament to skill bordering on artistry. Buried beneath Siberian ice, the Pazyryk carpet was found in a Scythian tomb woven in the 5th century BCE. With intricate borders of horsemen and deer, it is the oldest known knotted carpet. Preserved by permafrost, its threads tell of nomads who carried beauty into the grave. The Antillean manatee glides through Caribbean waters with flippers bearing fingernail-like stubs. These remnants reveal kinship with four-legged ancestors that once walked on land. Gentle and massive, the manatee carries in its body the memory of creatures that traded earth for sea, forever caught between two worlds. In Ukraine, the Nebelivka site revealed 5th to 4th millennia BCE settlement, sprawling with two-story houses and organized streets. Larger than many Mesopotamian cities, it housed thousands in planned neighborhoods. Long before written history, these builders raised a city whose scale reshapes the story of Europe's earliest civilizations. In the deserts of Egypt, the Camille crater lies small but perfect, its shatter cones pointing outward like frozen shock waves. Formed by an asteroid impact only 2,000 years ago, it offers geologists a pristine example. Unlike guarded sites, Camille lies open, a rare crater where anyone may walk the scars of space. Jesuit missions in Paraguay rang with bells cast from copper and tin smelted in the jungle. Analyses reveal arsenic traces from Andean ores, giving their tone a brighter, piercing timbre. Forged far from Europe, these bells tolled across the forests, blending indigenous skill with European faith in resonant bronze. In 1846, Johann Gall raised his telescope in Berlin, guided by Urbain Le Verrier's calculations. There, in the dark, a new world appeared. Neptune. It was not found by chance, but summoned through mathematics. With its discovery, celestial mechanics proved itself a power that could predict unseen planets. In 1958, Eugene Parker defied skepticism to propose the solar wind, a ceaseless gale of charged particles streaming from the sun. His theory was ridiculed until spacecraft confirmed it in the 1960s. Today, satellites shield themselves from it, and Parker's name lives on, carried by the very wind he foresaw. In northern Finland, the Sami people made bowstrings from reindeer sinew. They twisted each limb string in opposite directions, so when snow or ice froze it, the bow didn't warp. This clever design, thousands of years old, solved problems modern archers still face. It shows how traditional hunters mastered engineering with natural materials. In 2019, scientists studied medieval parchment and found traces of dog and cat DNA. It meant pets walked across drying manuscripts in monasteries, leaving invisible paw prints in history. Monks copied sacred texts while their animals wandered freely. Today, tiny genetic clues give us a peek into the everyday lives behind those holy books. The Panama Canal isn't filled with ocean water. Instead, it uses fresh water locks connected to Gatun Lake. This design keeps salt water out, protecting the lake's ecosystem. Ships climb and descend through these locks to cross between oceans. Built in 1914, the canal remains one of the world's greatest engineering shortcuts. In 1869, Russian chemist Dmitry Mendeleev arranged elements by atomic weight and noticed repeating patterns. His periodic table left empty spots, predicting elements like gallium and germanium before they were discovered. When scientists later found them, his predictions matched perfectly. The table became one of science's most powerful organizing tools. Technetium, discovered in 1937 by Emilio Segre, is strange. It has no stable form. Every atom eventually decays, releasing beta particles. Because of this, Earth contains almost none naturally, but astronomers detect technetium in stars, proving nuclear reactions happen inside them. It was the first element created artificially before being found in nature. In 1978, mathematician Benoit Mandelbrot studied cotton prices and noticed patterns that looked like fractals, shapes repeating at every scale. He showed markets had wild randomness, with big swings more common than traditional math predicted. Decades later, high-frequency trading confirmed his ideas. Mandelbrot's work reshaped how economists see risk and chaos. In 1905, Albert Einstein published a paper on Brownian motion, the jittery movement of particles in water. He proved it was caused by invisible atoms bumping into them. This gave scientists the best evidence that atoms really exist. His explanation helped turn atomic theory from idea to proven science. The archaeon Acidilibus saccharovirens thrives where almost nothing else can. It survives in acid with a pH of just 1.5, as harsh as stomach acid. Living on sugars, it helps scientists imagine what life might look like on Venus or other acidic planets. On Earth, it shows life's extreme flexibility. In 1858, Charles Darwin got a letter from Alfred Russel Wallace, who had developed almost the same theory of evolution. Shocked, Darwin rushed to publish. Their ideas were presented together in London, launching evolutionary biology. It was one of science's rare moments where two people discovered the same truth at once. In the Himalayas, a fungus called Ophiocordyceps sinensis infects caterpillars. It replaces their insides with mycelium until only a stiff mummy remains sticking out of the soil. For centuries, it's been prized in Chinese medicine as a tonic. Nicknamed caterpillar fungus, it shows how parasites can turn death into value. The mineral perovskite deep inside Earth's mantle can trap gases like helium. These gases were locked away since Earth formed 4.5 billion years ago. By studying perovskite, scientists learn how our planet's early atmosphere and core developed. Today, perovskite also names new solar materials, linking Earth's past to future energy. In 1947, Thor Heyerdahl sailed a balsa wood raft called Kon-Tiki from Peru to Polynesia. He wanted to prove people could cross the Pacific without modern ships. After 101 days, the raft reached Polynesian islands. Though his theory of settlement was debated, his voyage showed ancient seafaring was possible. In the 1930s, physicist Paul Dirac's equations predicted antimatter, a mirror version of normal particles. For every electron, he said, there should be a positron. In 1932, scientists found one, confirming his math. Antimatter sounds like science fiction, but it's real, and today it helps power PET scans in hospitals. Mongolian yurts, or gyrs, withstand fierce winds thanks to horsehair ropes. The rope wraps around the wooden lattice walls, holding pressure evenly. This lets the central crown ring stay open without collapsing. For nomads, it meant a portable, sturdy home on the open steppe, blending design with survival. Mayan writing mixed phonetic symbols with logograms, so scribes could record both sounds and whole words. They carved dynasties, rituals, and astronomy on stelae and codices. Deciphered only in the 20th century, Mayan texts revealed detailed histories of rulers and wars, showing how advanced their civilization really was. Mohenjo-Daro, a Harappan city from 2500 BCE, had a public bath lined with waterproof bricks. Steps led into the pool, suggesting it was used for ritual cleansing. Its advanced plumbing included drains and wells, showing that cleanliness and community rituals were central in one of the world's first urban cultures. Deinococcus radiodurans is nicknamed Conan the Bacterium. It survives radiation 1,000 times higher than what kills humans. Its trick is repairing shattered DNA using backup copies. Found in deserts and nuclear waste sites, it gives scientists clues about how life could survive on Mars or after nuclear disasters. The Zapotecs of Oaxaca built Monte Alban around 500 BCE. At its center was a ball court where ritual games were played. These weren't just sports, they symbolized cosmic battles of life and death. Courts like this appear across Mesoamerica, linking games, religion, and politics into one cultural tradition. In 1976, the Tangshan earthquake struck northern China at night. Buildings collapsed instantly, killing over 240,000 people. It was one of the deadliest earthquakes ever recorded. Rescue was slow, and the tragedy shocked the world. For China, it marked a turning point in disaster response and earthquake science. Soviet Vostok spacesuits used aluminum visor coatings that looked like fish scales. Engineers deposited them with vacuum evaporation, reflecting infrared heat, while letting astronauts still see clearly. These shimmering visors protected Yuri Gagarin's generation of cosmonauts, combining survival with space-age style in the race beyond Earth. The Mississippian culture, flourishing from 800 to 1600 CE, built massive earthen mounds. At Cahokia, near modern St. Louis, Monk's Mound covers over 14 acres, larger than the Great Pyramid's base. These platforms supported temples and houses, forming the political and religious heart of America's largest pre-Columbian city. The tiny dot above the letter I has a name, a tittle. It comes from medieval Latin writing, where scribes used it to mark short letters. Today, it's so ordinary we barely notice it, but without tittles, words like minim or limit would blur into confusion. Ancient Egyptians embalmed not only people, but also pets. Cats, ibises, and even crocodiles were carefully wrapped and placed in tombs as offerings to gods like Bastet and Thoth. Archaeologists have uncovered millions of animal mummies. The embalming process used linen, resin, and salt, ensuring that animals too were preserved for eternity alongside humans. The Delhi Iron Pillar, built during the Gupta dynasty around the 4th or 5th century CE, has stood rust-free for over 1,600 years. Standing over 7 meters tall and weighing 6 tons, it resists corrosion because of a protective layer of crystalline iron hydrogen phosphate. Ancient Indian metallurgists perfected this process long before modern science. In 1718, Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, blockaded Charleston, South Carolina. His ships seized vessels and took hostages, but instead of demanding gold, he requested medicine. The standoff lasted nearly a week before officials surrendered supplies. Blackbeard's unusual ransom highlighted how pirates sometimes relied on negotiation to keep their crews alive at sea. Mayan pyramids were once painted in vivid colors, unlike the gray stone seen today. Archaeologists found traces of pigments, such as hematite red, Maya blue, and yellow ochre. The tropical sun and centuries of rain eventually stripped away the colors. In their time, Mayan cities must have gleamed with bright and striking monuments. Caddisfly larvae survive underwater by building portable armor. They gather pebbles, shells, and sand, binding them with silk. Using curved gravel sorted by size, they form protective cases that spiral inside like a helix. X-ray microtomography shows this design reduces wobbling in fast streams, keeping the larvae stable as they cling to rocks. The brittle star Ophiocoma wentii, found in Caribbean reefs, has no eyes yet can sense light. Its skeleton contains calcite crystals that work as tiny lenses, creating a distributed visual system. This allows the animal to detect shadows and brightness. It also shifts body color from red to gray, blending into coral during daylight. Altamira Cave in Spain holds Paleolithic art dated to about 36,000 BCE. Discovered in 1879, its bison and deer paintings show shading and muscle details made with ochre and charcoal. For years, experts dismissed them as forgeries until more cave art was found elsewhere. Today, Altamira stands as one of humanity's earliest masterpieces. Persepolis, founded by Darius the Great in the 6th century BCE, was the ceremonial capital of the Achaemenid Empire. Its massive halls stood on stone terraces with towering columns topped by double-headed capitals of bulls, lions, and griffins. The city displayed imperial power until Alexander the Great destroyed it in the 4th century BCE. At the 1933 Chicago World's Fair, engineers presented modular concrete homes. Prefabricated pods were cast in factories, lifted by cranes and stacked into dwellings. These experiments foreshadowed post-war housing systems and later projects like Montreal's Habitat 67. The display marked one of the earliest large-scale attempts to industrialize building construction. The word alphabet comes directly from Greek. It combines alpha and beta, the first 2 letters of their writing system, which itself was adapted from the Phoenician script. Unlike earlier alphabets, the Greeks introduced clear vowel signs. This change made reading easier and influenced the Latin alphabet, which eventually spread worldwide. In Namibia's desert grasslands, circular barren patches known as fairy circles stretch for hundreds of kilometers. They appear as polka dot patterns even visible from satellites. One theory suggests sand termites eat roots and clear vegetation to conserve water. Another points to plant competition in arid soils. The mystery remains under active study. In 2003, computer scientists recreated the old mechanical Turk chess hoax with artificial intelligence. The original 18th century machine tricked audiences into believing it played chess by hiding a person inside. Modern researchers instead programmed AI to mimic human decisions, echoing the illusion of intelligence, but this time with real computation instead of deception. Eratosthenes of Cyrene, a Greek mathematician, measured Earth's circumference in the 3rd century BCE. By comparing shadow lengths in Siena and Alexandria on the same day, he used geometry to estimate the planet's size. His result was about 39,000 kilometers, astonishingly close to the actual 40,075, achieved without modern instruments, only observation and math. In 1932, physicist Carl Anderson identified the positron, the first antimatter particle, while studying cosmic rays in a cloud chamber. He observed tracks that curved like electrons, but in the opposite direction under a magnetic field. This discovery confirmed Paul Dirac's theoretical prediction and opened the field of particle physics beyond normal matter. Ostriches, the world's largest birds, can outrun horses. They sprint at speeds of up to 70 kilometers per hour and maintain high speed for long distances. Their powerful legs also deliver dangerous kicks, strong enough to deter predators. These adaptations help them survive in open African grasslands, where speed equals survival. Maya blue, a pigment made from indigo dye and sepia-like clay, has lasted for centuries on murals and artifacts. Unlike most dyes, it resists acids and humidity. Tests show sweat and salt barely affect its brightness. This chemical bond made Maya blue one of the most durable and unique pigments in history. The Hittite capital of Hattusa, located in modern Turkey, flourished in the 2nd millennium BCE. It contained over 30 temples, massive stone walls, and rock carvings showing storm gods central to Hittite religion. The city's archives also held thousands of clay tablets, giving historians insight into law, diplomacy, and daily life of the empire. Around 4,500 BCE, the Vinča culture of Serbia produced terracotta figurines carved with mysterious symbols. Some researchers see them as early proto-writing, predating Sumerian cuneiform by centuries. Found in settlements along the Danube, these artifacts reveal a sophisticated culture experimenting with symbolic communication long before formal alphabets emerged in the ancient Near East. Central Asia's Khares, or Qanat, water systems were ingenious underground aqueducts. Builders dug gently sloping tunnels to bring groundwater to villages and fields. Surveyors aligned them using a plumb bob suspended in a slit gnomon, measuring sun angles at fixed times of year. This allowed gradients of less than 1 degree to be achieved. The trilobite Phacops rana, which lived about 390 million years ago, had highly developed eyes. Its lenses were made of calcite crystals, unlike modern soft tissue eyes. These hard lenses corrected for underwater light distortion, giving it clear vision in Paleozoic seas. Fossils of these compound eyes remain some of the best preserved in paleontology. The leaf insect Carassius morosus camouflages so well that it looks like a swaying leaf. Even its movements mimic branches rustling in wind. This deception makes it nearly invisible to predators like birds. Found in forests of South Asia, its perfect mimicry is one of nature's most effective survival adaptations against hunters. In the 5th century BCE, the Greek city of Miletus was rebuilt using a grid plan after Persian attacks. Streets ran at right angles, with blocks arranged systematically. This early urban planning influenced later Roman and modern city designs. Hippodamus of Miletus, known as the father of urban planning, pioneered the system. When Captain James Cook's crew landed in Australia in 1770, they asked the Gugu Yimithir people about a strange animal. The locals supposedly replied, kangaroo, which the sailors took as its name. Some claim the phrase actually meant, I don't know. Linguists debate the story, but the word stuck as the animal's English name. In medieval Europe, clergy accused of crimes sometimes underwent a trial by cheese. The priest ate consecrated bread and cheese while watched by others. If he choked, it was judged as divine proof of guilt. If he swallowed smoothly, innocence was declared. This odd ritual mixed superstition with legal judgment in the church. An ostrich's eye measures 5 centimeters across, larger than its brain. The huge eyes help spot predators from far away across the savanna. Their excellent vision, combined with powerful running legs, makes ostriches well adapted to survival. The brain may be small, but their senses and speed give them the advantage. Philo of Byzantium, a 3rd century BCE engineer, built an automaton that used steam pressure to make a bird sing. This early pneumatic device worked by channeling heated air through pipes, forcing sound from whistles. It showed how ancient inventors experimented with steam power centuries before industrial machines. The Parthenon in Athens, built in the 5th century BCE, has columns with a slight middle swelling called entasis. Without it, the shafts would look thinner at a distance. This subtle adjustment corrected human optical illusions, making the temple's Doric columns appear perfectly straight to viewers standing below. Medieval England had a law called deodand, where any object that caused death was forfeited to the crown for charity. By the 19th century, juries applied it to railway locomotives after accidents. Rail companies lobbied against it, and Parliament finally abolished the law in 1846. NASA's Viking landers ran biology tests on Mars in 1976. One experiment preheated Martian soil before adding nutrients, which likely drove off reactive chemicals that could have shown activity. Later studies suggested the heating step may have destroyed organic signatures, accidentally sterilizing soil that might have reacted otherwise. In Thailand, the cavefish Cryptotora thamicola uses strong pelvic fins to climb rocks and even walk up waterfalls. Its bones resemble those of land vertebrates, making it unique among living fish. Scientists discovered it in 2016, providing rare insight into how ancient aquatic animals may have evolved to move on land. During Japan's Edo period, peasants raised silkworms in their homes. Families fed them mulberry leaves and stored cocoons under wooden floorboards until they were sold to merchants. This cottage industry supplied raw silk for textiles, making sericulture a vital part of rural household economies from the 17th to 19th centuries. The Adena culture, around 1000 BCE in the Ohio River Valley, built burial mounds like the Cresap Mound in West Virginia. Excavations revealed log-lined tombs with bodies covered in red ochre. These elaborate graves suggest a society with distinct social hierarchy and ritual practices surrounding death. Zhou dynasty tombs in China, dating from about 1000 BCE, contained bronze bells that could produce two distinct tones depending on where they were struck. This acoustic innovation predates Western harmonic theory by centuries. The bells were arranged in sets and used for ceremonial music in royal courts. Catopsis berteroniana, a bromeliad that grows high in tropical tree canopies, collects rainwater in its rosettes. Insects that fall in cannot escape, and the plant absorbs nutrients as they decompose. This adaptation allows it to survive in nutrient-poor environments where roots alone would not provide enough food. The bacterium Rhodopseudomonas palustris uses a photosynthetic reaction center to convert sunlight into energy. Found in diverse habitats from swamps to rice paddies, it can switch between photosynthesis and other metabolic pathways. Its efficiency has inspired researchers to explore biohybrid solar cells that mimic its energy harvesting system. In 1903, Orville and Wilbur Wright achieved the first powered flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Their wooden flyer, built from spruce with muslin-covered wings, flew for 12 seconds and covered 37 meters. This short but historic liftoff marked the beginning of modern aviation. British lighthouses in the 19th century used massive Fresnel lenses, some over 2 meters tall. Each prism was hand-ground to arc-second precision. To reduce friction, the entire assembly floated on a circular trough of mercury, allowing keepers to rotate the heavy lenses smoothly so their beams swept across the sea. Greek hoplites, citizen soldiers of the classical era, wore bronze helmets often topped with crests of dyed horsehair. The helmets provided protection while the tall crests added height and intimidation. The designs also signaled rank within the phalanx, making them both practical armor and a display of status. The comb jelly Nemeopsis ladii has a nervous system unlike that of other animals. Instead of traditional neurotransmitters, it uses unique chemical signaling, suggesting its nervous system evolved independently. This challenges long-held assumptions that nervous systems share a common evolutionary origin across all species. Libai, a famous Tang Dynasty poet of the 7th century, was known for romantic verse and heavy drinking. Legend says he drowned after trying to embrace the moon's reflection on a river while drunk, a story that reflects the dreamlike imagery often found in his poetry. Alpacas communicate with soft humming sounds. These hums vary in pitch and length to express different states, such as curiosity, stress, or comfort. Farmers can often tell how alpacas feel by listening to these gentle calls, which are a key part of herd communication. The comb jelly Biro ovata preys exclusively on other ctenophores. It engulfs them whole by expanding its body and using rows of tiny cilia to create suction. Lacking a traditional jaws, this simple but effective feeding method makes it one of the most specialized predators in the ocean. An 18th century Chinese medical text described steaming rhubarb roots with wine to change their medicinal effect. The treatment reduced their harsh laxative properties. This shows how preparation methods, not just ingredients, were carefully classified in traditional Chinese medicine, where processing was considered as important as the plant itself. The ribbon worm Linnaeus longissimus, found in European waters, can extend its sticky proboscis up to 30 meters, longer than a blue whale. Coated in toxins, the proboscis lashes out to entangle prey like crustaceans and fish. Despite its fragile body, this worm is one of the longest animals known. The Olmec civilization, flourishing in Mesoamerica around 1200 BCE, carved jade masks with stylized human features. These artifacts were not worn but buried as offerings in sacred sites. Their abstract designs influenced later Mesoamerican art and reflected the Olmec spiritual beliefs about transformation and divine power. In 2006, mathematicians confirmed the 120-degree theorem for soap films. They showed that when 3 films meet, they do so at equal 120-degree angles, and when 4 meet, they form angles of about 109.47 degrees, identical to tetrahedral geometry. These findings connected everyday soap bubbles to fundamental mathematics. Some deep-sea brittle stars, like Amphiphilus squamata, can reproduce asexually by splitting in half. Each half regenerates the missing arms and central disc, forming 2 complete individuals. This cloning method allows populations to expand without mating, especially in environments where finding partners is difficult. The alga Dunaliella salina thrives in hypersaline lakes by producing high amounts of beta-carotene, a pigment that turns the water pink. These lakes support brine shrimp, which feed on the algae and in turn nourish migratory birds. The pink lakes of Australia and Africa owe their color to this microscopic organism. Certain bacteriophages, like T4, attack E. coli using a syringe-like tail. The virus pierces the bacterial wall and injects its DNA, hijacking the cell's machinery to make new phages. Within minutes, the host becomes a viral factory, eventually bursting open to release hundreds of progeny that infect neighboring bacteria. Horses cannot vomit because of a powerful lower esophageal sphincter. This muscular valve between the stomach and esophagus is so strong that it prevents food or gas from escaping upward. Combined with the angle of their digestive tract, this adaptation makes vomiting impossible, which can cause dangerous bloating if gas builds inside. The Inca site of Moray in Peru features terraced circular depressions descending up to 30 meters. Archaeologists suggest these were agricultural laboratories where temperature and humidity varied by level. The design may have helped the Inca experiment with adapting crops like maize and potatoes to different microclimates in the high Andes. In 1895, an inventor patented pneumatic shoes with hollow rubber soles designed to cushion footsteps on cobblestones. Early versions squeaked loudly in wet weather, making them unpopular. The design was abandoned until later models added valves and better materials, influencing future shock-absorbing footwear technologies decades afterward. Some Viking runestones depict serpents swallowing their own tails. This image symbolized Jörmungandr, the mythic sea serpent of Norse legend that encircled the world. The motif echoed themes of cycles, infinity, and doom as Jörmungandr was destined to rise during Ragnarok, battling Thor in the apocalyptic final struggle. Roman water pipes made of lead quickly developed a protective carbonate layer inside, which reduced direct poisoning. Archaeological studies show that water often absorbed more lead from bronze taps and fittings than from old buried mains. The mineral scale, though imperfect, provided some defense against the dangers of heavy metal exposure. Tibetan dungchen, or long trumpets, are telescoping instruments of copper soldered with silver-rich alloys. These materials withstand expansion and contraction caused by hot sun at high altitude during processions. Measuring several meters, the trumpets produce deep, resonant tones used in Buddhist rituals across monasteries of the Himalayas. The mineral beryl, when tinted green by traces of chromium, forms emeralds. Its hexagonal crystal lattice refracts light in a way that produces the gem's vivid green color. Beyond jewelry, beryl crystals are used in optics and lasers, where their stable structure and clarity make them valuable for modern technology. Persian wind catchers, tall brick towers called badgirs, funneled breezes into underground water channels connected to homes. The cool air circulated indoors, lowering temperatures even in desert climates. Combined with qanats, these structures functioned as natural air conditioners centuries before electricity, reflecting remarkable ingenuity in traditional Persian architecture. The polychaete worm Alita succinea performs glowing spawning displays along coastlines. At night, females release bioluminescent eggs into the water, producing green light that attracts males. The glowing clouds mark reproductive swarms in estuaries and bays, where the species continues its cycle by using light itself as a beacon. The sea anemone Exiptasia pallida is widely studied as a coral model. Like corals, it hosts symbiotic algae that photosynthesize inside its tissues, providing energy. Scientists use it to investigate coral bleaching, since heat stress forces the algae to leave, helping researchers understand how rising ocean temperatures threaten reef ecosystems. In Canada's Hudson Bay region, gravity is slightly weaker than elsewhere. The effect comes from a combination of slow mantle flow beneath Earth's crust and past glacial activity that reduced rock density. Satellites measuring Earth's gravity field revealed this anomaly, which can shift the weight experienced by objects at the surface. The hairy frog of Central Africa, Trichobatrachus robustus, grows hair-like skin strands on males during breeding season. These vascular filaments increase oxygen absorption while guarding eggs underwater. When threatened, the frog can also break its own toe bones to create claws that puncture its skin, a rare defensive adaptation among amphibians. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union built closed cities devoted to nuclear, military, and aerospace projects. These secret settlements did not appear on maps. Residents lived under restrictions, and mail addresses used only numbered postboxes. Access was tightly controlled, making them hidden engines of Soviet scientific and military development. The Antikythera mechanism discovered in a Greek shipwreck had a calendar dial tracking the 19-year Metonic cycle. This cycle synchronized solar and lunar calendars, allowing ancient Greeks to predict eclipses and schedule festivals. The device, built around the 2nd century BCE, used precision gears centuries before comparable technology appeared in Europe. The Greek city of Priene, rebuilt around 350 BCE, used terraced streets aligned with the slope of Mount Mycale. Houses were oriented to maximize sunlight in winter while allowing summer breezes. Drainage systems managed rainwater runoff. This early example of passive solar design showed advanced planning in Hellenistic urban architecture. At Lambitieco in Oaxaca, Mexico, Zapotec builders around 700 CE decorated structures with stucco friezes of Cotzijo, the rain god. The imagery tied closely to seasonal agriculture, reflecting the community's dependence on rainfall. Excavations show elite residences and ceremonial platforms, with the friezes reinforcing both political and religious authority. Icelandic turf houses layered birch bark between stacked sod walls. The bark acted as a capillary break, stopping water from seeping upward into timber beams. This technique preserved wooden structures through repeated freeze-thaw cycles in the subarctic climate. The turf walls also provided insulation, keeping interiors warmer in harsh winters. Maori stoneworkers crafted punamu, or greenstone, adzes using sandstone grinders. Water dripped onto the stone through flax-wrapped gourds, whose fibers acted as wicks to maintain a thin slurry. This steady stream prevented flooding and allowed precise shaping. The polished tools were highly valued for both practical use and cultural significance. In the ancient Sumerian city of Ur, ziggurats were faced with glazed bricks. The reflective surfaces caught sunlight and gleamed across the plains of Mesopotamia. Dedicated to moon god Nana, the great ziggurat stood as both a religious center and a symbol of divine presence visible from surrounding settlements. The copepod Calanus finemarcaicus undertakes daily vertical migrations in the North Atlantic. By day, it hides about 100 meters deep to avoid predators, then rises at night to feed on surface plankton. This massive synchronized movement of billions of copepods plays a key role in marine food webs. The Mazaron shipwreck off Spain's coast, dating to the 7th century BCE, belonged to Phoenician traders. Excavated in the 1990s, the ship carried lead ingots, evidence of early Mediterranean trade in metals. Its preserved hull revealed shipbuilding techniques like pegged mortise and tenon joints used by one of the world's earliest maritime powers. In medieval Iceland, trial by hot iron was used to test guilt. The accused carried a piece of glowing iron for several steps. After days of healing, the burns were inspected. If they looked clean, the person was judged innocent. If not, guilt was declared. This ordeal mixed law and superstition. Shaving hair does not make it grow back thicker. After cutting, the blunt ends of hair shafts feel coarse as they emerge. Because the hair is no longer tapered, it seems darker and stiffer. The rate and thickness of growth, however, are determined by genetics and hormones, not by shaving. The Taung child fossil, discovered in 1924 by Raymond Dart in South Africa, belonged to Australopithecus africanus. Its foramen magnum was positioned beneath the skull, showing upright posture and early bipedalism. At about 3 years old, the specimen bridged the gap between apes and humans, offering vital evidence of evolutionary transition nearly 2 million years ago. Bananas glow bright blue under ultraviolet light. As they ripen, chlorophyll in the peel breaks down and produces fluorescent compounds called catabolites. Under UV, these molecules emit a blue hue, invisible in normal light. The glow may act as a signal to fruit-eating animals, guiding them to ripe bananas in tropical forests. On the high plateaus of Bolivia, quinoa farmers planted inucas, rotating fields surrounded by uncultivated buffers. These strips served as windbreaks, insect refuges, and soil protectors. This system, practiced for centuries, sustained yields in the harsh Puna climate. By alternating cultivation and rest, the inucas balanced agriculture with ecological resilience. Skara Brae in Orkney, Scotland, dating to around 3100 BCE, preserves one of Europe's best Neolithic villages. Its stone houses contain built-in beds, dressers, and even drainage channels. Buried under sand for millennia, the site offers a rare glimpse into daily prehistoric domestic life, showing how early communities organized space and sanitation. Before legal standard time, Britain's railways enforced railway time. By the 1840s, timetables required synchronized clocks, but many church towers lagged behind. Telegraph signals later sent precise noon readings from Greenwich Observatory, unifying schedules nationwide. This system prepared the way for Britain's official adoption of standard time in 1880. In 1739, French inventor Jacques de Vaucanson unveiled the digesting duck, an automaton that appeared to eat and excrete grain. Inside, gears and tubes created the illusion of digestion. Though a mechanical trick, it fascinated Enlightenment audiences, blending engineering artistry with curiosity about life processes and the boundary between machine and organism. Crabs can regenerate lost claws through molting. After injury, a small bud forms at the wound site. With each successive molt, the bud enlarges until a functional claw grows back, though it may take several cycles to reach full size. This regenerative ability helps crabs recover survival tools after predator attacks. Pinguicula gigantea, native to Mexican highlands, grows broad, sticky leaves that trap insects. Digestive enzymes break down prey, releasing nutrients unavailable in poor soils. Unlike many carnivorous plants, it thrives in limestone-rich habitats. Its large size and pale violet flowers make it one of the most striking butterwort species in the region. In 1922, American physicist Arthur Compton showed that X-rays scatter off electrons like particles. Measuring changes in wavelength after collision, he proved that photons carry momentum. This experiment confirmed quantum theory's prediction of light's dual nature. Awarded the Nobel Prize in 1927, the Compton effect became a cornerstone of modern physics. In 2012, Russian scientists germinated Silene stenophylla from seeds frozen in Siberian permafrost for 32,000 years. Excavated by ground squirrels and preserved in ice, the ancient seeds were regenerated into flowering plants. The experiment demonstrated extreme seed viability and offered clues about long-term biological survival under frozen conditions. So, which of these facts blew your mind? Drop your favorite down in the comments below. And don't forget, like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a countdown. And hey, if you enjoyed today's list, you'll love the one we did before that'll make you question everything. Just click right here.
Most videos throw random facts at you without context. This one doesn't. Every fact here has been picked for a reason, because it's real, rare, and worth knowing. No fake hype, no slow build-up. Just solid information you probably haven't heard before, delivered straight. If you're here to learn something that actually sticks, let's get right into it. A teaspoon of neutron star material weighs over 1 billion tons due to its extreme density. Neutron stars form from the collapsed cores of massive stars after a supernova. Their matter is so compressed that a single cubic centimeter can weigh about 400 million tons. This density results from atomic nuclei being packed tightly with neutrons under immense gravitational pressure. Glass is an amorphous solid, but it does not flow over centuries at room temperature. The common belief that medieval window panes are thicker at the bottom due to glass flowing over time is a myth. The uneven thickness is actually the result of historical glass-making methods, which produced glass with variable thickness that was often installed with the thicker side down for stability. In March 2000, an iceberg approximately the size of London broke off from the Antarctic ice shelf. This calving event occurred near the Ross Ice Shelf and was tracked by satellite imagery. Large icebergs like this can measure hundreds of kilometers in length and play a role in ocean circulation and sea level dynamics. Astronauts are unable to whistle inside spacesuits due to the low air pressure within the suit's internal environment. Whistling requires controlled airflow and pressure differences between the lungs, mouth, and lips. The pressurized atmosphere inside a spacesuit restricts this airflow, making whistling physically not impossible, but very difficult during extravehicular activity. Benin, a country located in West Africa, holds the world's highest rate of twin births. While the global average for twin births is approximately 1.3%, Benin's rate stands at roughly 3%. This unusually high rate is especially notable among the Yoruba ethnic group, where genetic factors and diet, particularly cassava, may contribute to the increased frequency of twin pregnancies. Around 41,000 years ago, during a geomagnetic reversal known as the Lachamp event, Earth experienced widespread auroras. The weakened magnetic field allowed solar particles to penetrate deeper into the atmosphere, producing visible auroras at low latitudes. These light displays, similar to the northern and southern lights, may have been seen globally. On Neptune and Uranus, high atmospheric pressure and temperatures cause carbon atoms to crystallize into diamonds. At depths of several thousand kilometers, methane breaks down, and carbon compresses into solid diamond structures, which may fall like rain through the ice giant's atmosphere. This phenomenon has been supported by laboratory simulations replicating planetary conditions. The Moon is gradually moving away from Earth at a rate of approximately 3.8 centimeters per year. This is due to tidal interactions between Earth and the Moon, which transfer angular momentum. Over geological time, this drift has influenced Earth's rotation and the length of a day. The effect is measured using lunar laser ranging experiments. The observable universe is estimated to contain about 100 to 200 billion galaxies. Each of these galaxies typically hosts hundreds of billions of stars. This estimate is based on data from space telescopes like Hubble and observations of deep space fields. The actual number may be higher as more faint and distant galaxies remain undetected. Peregrine falcons can reach diving speeds of up to 240 miles per hour while hunting. This makes them the fastest animals in the world. They achieve these speeds by tucking in their wings and entering a stoop, a high-speed controlled dive used to catch prey mid-air, primarily birds in flight. Sound travels approximately 4 times faster in water than in air. In seawater, it moves at about 1,500 meters per second, compared to roughly 340 meters per second in air. This increased speed is due to water's higher density and elasticity, which facilitate quicker transmission of sound waves. Sunlight takes around 8 minutes and 17 seconds to reach Earth. Light travels at a constant speed of approximately 299,792,458 meters per second in a vacuum. Since Earth is about 150 million kilometers from the Sun, this delay reflects the finite speed of light. The speed of light in a vacuum is exactly 299,792,458 meters per second. This constant, denoted by the symbol c, is fundamental to physics and appears in equations such as Einstein's mass-energy equivalence formula, E equals mc squared. Each second, trillions of solar neutrinos pass through the human body. These neutrinos are nearly massless particles produced during nuclear reactions in the Sun's core. Despite their abundance, they rarely interact with matter, allowing them to travel through planets and stars almost undisturbed. Their detection requires highly sensitive underground detectors. Venus is the only planet in the solar system that rotates clockwise, or in what's called retrograde rotation. Venus rotates slowly in the opposite direction of most other planets. Venus takes about 243 Earth days to complete one rotation. For millions of years during the Proterozoic eon, Earth's oceans had a greenish tint. This was caused by high levels of iron and sulfur compounds in the water, along with low oxygen concentrations. The presence of iron reacted with dissolved gases, creating a chemical environment that influenced ocean color before widespread oxygenation began during the Great Oxidation Event around 2.4 billion years ago. Tardigrades, microscopic invertebrates discovered by Johann Goeze in 1773, survive outer space and extreme conditions. They endure temperatures from -328 Fahrenheit to 300 Fahrenheit, radiation 1,000 times human tolerance, and decades-long dehydration via cryptobiosis. Found globally from Antarctica to deep-sea trenches, these water bears have been studied since the 18th century for their resilience. There is a very rare condition called Anton syndrome, in which a person becomes blind but is unaware of it and will even deny it. Their brain will generate false visual images, so they continue to believe that they can see. Butterflies detect chemical stimuli using chemoreceptors located on their tarsi, or feet. This sensory adaptation enables them to assess the presence of sugars or toxins in plant surfaces before feeding. First described in monarch butterflies and other Lepidoptera during the 19th century, this mechanism aids in selective oviposition and nectar feeding, enhancing survival through efficient resource identification and toxin avoidance in flowering environments. Cumulus clouds, formed through atmospheric convection and condensation of water vapor, can weigh over 1 million pounds. A single cloud occupying 1 cubic kilometer may contain over 1 billion condensed water droplets. Meteorologists in the 20th century quantified this mass using droplet density and cloud volume estimates, calculating a weight equivalent to approximately 500 adult elephants, suspended in air by updraft and thermal buoyancy. Raindrops reach terminal velocities of approximately 18 miles per hour due to opposing air resistance. Droplets between 2 and 5 millimeters in diameter descend slower than larger ones, with shape and atmospheric drag limiting speed. This phenomenon was quantified in 1904 by physicist Philip Leonard, who studied droplet dynamics, contributing to the foundational understanding of fluid mechanics and meteorological precipitation behavior. Human blood completes one full circulatory loop in about 60 seconds, driven by the rhythmic contraction of the heart, which beats approximately 100,000 times daily. This circulatory function, measured at 5 liters of blood volume, was first described by William Harvey in 1628. The system consists of arterial, venous, and capillary networks that transport oxygen, nutrients, and waste throughout the body. The human brain produces an average of 20 watts of electrical power, sufficient to illuminate a small LED bulb. This continuous energy output enables electrochemical signaling among approximately 86 billion neurons. The activity was first recorded using electroencephalography, EEG, by Hans Berger in 1924. Neural communication depends on synaptic transmission and action potentials, forming the biological basis of cognition and sensory processing. The human circulatory system contains an estimated 60,000 miles of blood vessels, including arteries, veins, and capillaries. This length is sufficient to encircle the Earth more than twice. The detailed anatomy of this vascular system was first illustrated by Andreas Vesalius in 1543. These vessels distribute blood and oxygen to tissues, remove metabolic waste, and regulate systemic pressure across various organ systems. A global estimate conducted by Yale University in 2015 concluded that Earth hosts approximately 3 trillion trees. This number vastly exceeds the estimated 400 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy, as calculated using Hubble Space Telescope data. The tree count includes boreal, temperate, and tropical forests, reflecting Earth's dominant terrestrial biomass and its central role in carbon cycling and oxygen production. Phytoplankton, Photosynthetic microorganisms found in aquatic ecosystems are responsible for producing between 50 and 85% of Earth's atmospheric oxygen. These unicellular algae utilize chlorophyll to convert carbon dioxide and sunlight into organic matter and oxygen. First studied in the 19th century, phytoplankton form the base of marine food webs and are essential to both biological carbon sequestration and planetary oxygen balance. Snails possess a specialized anatomical structure known as a radula, a chitinous ribbon lined with up to 15,000 microscopic teeth. This organ functions as a scraping tool, allowing species such as Cornu aspersum, also called common garden snail, to feed on algae and plant surfaces. Malacologists have studied radular morphology since the 1800s to understand gastropod feeding adaptations and phylogenetic classification. The Texas horned lizard possesses a rare ocular defense mechanism whereby it forcibly ejects blood from the ocular sinuses. The expelled stream, which can reach up to 1.5 meters, contains compounds that deter predators such as coyotes. This adaptation, documented in herpetological studies since the early 20th century, represents a physiological response combining vascular control and chemical defense. The skin of the hippopotamus secretes a red-colored substance known as hipposudoric acid. First chemically analyzed in the 1990s, this excretion functions as a natural sunscreen and antimicrobial agent. The compound absorbs ultraviolet radiation and inhibits bacterial growth, offering protective benefits in the animal's native freshwater habitats across sub-Saharan Africa. Despite its appearance, it is not blood-based. Happiness can trigger Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, known as broken heart syndrome. Intense joy releases adrenaline, weakening the heart muscle, mimicking heart attack symptoms. Identified in Japan in 1990 by Dr. Hikaru Sato, it often affects women over 50. Humans shed about 35 kilograms of skin over a lifetime, aiding indoor air purification. Dead skin cells, shed at 30,000 to 40,000 per hour, bind dust and pollutants. Research from the University of Copenhagen shows this reduces airborne particles. The stratum corneum, the skin's outer layer, regenerates every 10 to 30 days, supporting this process. The average person holds 13 secrets, impacting mental health. A 2017 study by Columbia University's Dr. Michael Slepian found secrets activate the prefrontal cortex, causing cognitive strain. Often about relationships or finances, secrecy increases stress, potentially leading to anxiety, based on data from over 1,000 participants. Babies are born with around 300 bones, fusing to 206 by adulthood. Ossification, completed by age 25, turns cartilage into bone, per Johns Hopkins University research. This strengthens the skeleton, with flexible infant bones aiding childbirth and skull fontanelles closing by age 2. Motor neurons can extend up to 4.5 feet. Located in the spinal cord, they transmit signals to muscles, with the longest reaching the toes. Neuroscience studies note axons, insulated by myelin, ensure rapid signal transmission. Damage to these neurons, as in amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, impairs movement, per research from the NIH. The stapes, the smallest human bone, measures 2.5 to 3.5 millimeters in the middle ear. It transmits sound vibrations to the inner ear, enabling hearing, per Gray's Anatomy. Part of the ossicular chain with the malleus and incus, it amplifies sound for auditory processing. Razor blades can dissolve in stomach acid within some days. Hydrochloric acid, with a pH of 1.5 to 3.5, corrodes thin steel, per University of Chicago studies. This acidic environment, meant for digestion, breaks down small metal objects, though ingestion risks perforation, requiring urgent medical care. About 1 to 2% of human genes come from bacteria, fungi, and viruses via horizontal gene transfer. Max Planck Institute research shows this ancient process shapes immunity and metabolism. For example, retroviral genes aid placental development, highlighting how microbial DNA, integrated over millennia, influences human biology. So if a virus can sneak into our DNA and stick around forever, Surely you can let this channel sneak into your subscriptions. Hit that button before we evolve without you. The iconic Hollywood sign perched on the hills above Los Angeles originally read Hollywoodland when it was erected in 1923. It was constructed as a temporary advertisement for a new real estate development and featured 4,000 light bulbs. Over time, the sign deteriorated, and during a restoration effort in 1949, the city decided to remove the land, leaving just Hollywood to represent the entertainment industry. The superhero film Batgirl, originally planned for release in 2022, became the most expensive movie ever abandoned by a major studio. Warner Brothers had invested over $90 million into the project, reaching the post-production stage with principal photography already completed. Despite that, the studio chose to cancel its release entirely, citing strategic shifts and tax-related considerations rather than issues with the film's quality. Between 1912 and 1948, the Olympic Games awarded medals for architecture, painting, music, sculpture, and literature. Submissions had to be inspired by sport because nothing says peak physical endurance like competitive poetry. The events were discontinued when officials realized that most participants were professionals, violating the Olympic amateurism rule. The Groom of the Stool was an official royal appointment in Tudor England, most prominently under King Henry VIII. The role entailed assisting the monarch during defecation and maintaining related records. Established in the early 16th century, the office provided direct access to the king and considerable political leverage. Notably, Sir William Compton and others were knighted while serving in this role, underscoring its strategic importance at court. Between the 1940s and the 1970s, Yale University conducted a posture study in which incoming freshmen were photographed nude to evaluate spinal alignment and detect scoliosis. The project was part of a broader academic initiative led by Dr. William Herbert Sheldon and others, also carried out at Harvard and other Ivy League institutions. The medical justification was later questioned, as the program lacked clear consent protocols and produced limited usable data. Roman emperors such as Nero and Augustus reportedly practiced Mithridatism, the gradual ingestion of sublethal doses of poison to build immunity. The method was named after Mithridates VI of Pontus, who used it to resist assassination attempts in the 1st century BCE. Ancient texts, including those by Pliny the Elder, reference the practice, though its efficacy remains debated. It presented complications during attempted suicides, when immunity delayed or prevented death by poison. Following the death of poet Percy Bysshe Shelley in 1822, his heart was removed after cremation and returned to his widow, Mary Shelley. The organ did not fully incinerate, likely due to calcification from tuberculosis. Historical accounts indicate she wrapped it in cloth and stored it in her writing desk. The heart was eventually interred with the couple's son in St. Peter's Church, Bournemouth, in 1889. Thomas Edison proposed hello as the standard telephone greeting in 1877 while testing his newly developed carbon microphone. Alexander Graham Bell had preferred the term ahoy, derived from nautical signaling. Edison's suggestion was published in a letter to the president of the Central District and Printing Telegraph Company. The greeting gained widespread adoption by the late 19th century, becoming the default opening for telephone communication globally. In 1843, Ada Lovelace published annotations on Charles Babbage's analytical engine, which included an algorithm designed to compute Bernoulli numbers. Though the machine was never completed, her work is regarded as the first published computer program. The notes, signed AAL, outlined loop structures and conditional logic, predating modern software theory by over a century. Lovelace's algorithm remains a foundational reference in the history of computing. In 1898, author Morgan Robertson published Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan, a novella describing the sinking of an unsinkable ocean liner after colliding with an iceberg. 14 years later, in 1912, the RMS Titanic met a similar fate. Both ships were described as lacking sufficient lifeboats and struck ice in April. While not predictive, the parallel details have drawn scholarly interest in probabilistic narrative coincidence. The first traffic light was installed in December 1868 outside the British Houses of Parliament. Designed by railway engineer J.P. Knight, the manually operated signal resembled a semaphore and was powered by gas. Less than a month after installation, a gas leak caused an explosion, injuring the police officer operating it. The system was discontinued, and traffic signal development paused until electric versions emerged in the 20th century. The Phoenicians developed Tyrian purple dye using the mucus of murex sea snails, requiring approximately 10,000 specimens to yield 1 gram of pigment. This process, dating to at least 1500 BCE, involved fermenting crushed mollusks under controlled conditions. The dye's durability and vibrant hue made it a symbol of elite status, particularly in Roman and Byzantine empires, where it was often reserved for imperial garments. Scientific observations suggest that snakes are highly sensitive to ground vibrations and low-frequency seismic waves, which they detect through their bodies and jawbones. In some cases, unusual snake behavior, such as increased activity or surfacing, has been reported before earthquakes, particularly in China and Japan. However, there is no scientific consensus that snakes can reliably detect seismic activity from great distances or predict earthquakes days in advance. Most evidence remains anecdotal, and further research is needed to confirm their potential as natural early warning indicators. Roy Cleveland Sullivan, a U.S. park ranger in Shenandoah National Park, Virginia, was struck by lightning on 7 separate occasions between 1942 and 1977. Each incident was documented, with Sullivan surviving all and earning a Guinness World Record for most lightning strikes survived by one individual. Meteorologists estimate the odds of this occurring at approximately 1 in 10 trillion, though atmospheric conditions in mountainous regions increase exposure. In Halberstadt, Germany, an organ performance of John Cage's As Slow as Possible began in 2001 and is scheduled to end in the year 2640. The piece includes century-long pauses and chord changes every few years. Earthen windows were installed to hear the music. If anyone remembers, it's still playing. Octopuses engage in extensive RNA editing, particularly in neural tissues, allowing them to modify protein production without altering their underlying DNA. This molecular mechanism, observed in multiple cephalopod species, enhances adaptability in variable environments, such as cold ocean waters. Unlike most animals, which rarely employ post-transcriptional editing on this scale, octopuses exhibit consistent, targeted recoding, especially in genes related to neural function and ion transport. The 2011 Tohoku earthquake in Japan, with a magnitude of 9.1, caused a redistribution of Earth's mass, shortening the planet's rotation period by approximately 1.8 microseconds. The quake resulted in over 15,000 confirmed deaths and triggered a tsunami and nuclear accident at the Fukushima Daiichi plant. Data from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory confirmed the shift using satellite geodesy and seismological models. Lake Superior, the largest of North America's Great Lakes, spans a surface area of roughly 82,000 square kilometers. That makes it larger than the entire land area of Scotland, which covers about 78,000 square kilometers. Uranus has an axial tilt of about 98 degrees, resulting in a near-horizontal rotation as it orbits the Sun. These anomalies likely stem from high-impact collisions during the early formation of the solar system, as suggested by planetary modeling studies conducted in the late 20th century. Killer whales exhibit unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, during which one cerebral hemisphere remains active while the other enters a rest state. They maintain mobility and breathing by swimming slowly in synchronized formations, surfacing for air at regular intervals. This sleep pattern has been documented in both wild and captive populations and is also observed in dolphins and certain bird species. The modern chainsaw was first developed in the late 18th century for surgical purposes. Scottish doctors John Aitken and James Jeffrey designed the device to perform symphysiotomies, a procedure that involved cutting through the pelvic bone to facilitate childbirth in cases of obstructed labor. The original design featured a hand-cranked chain with serrated teeth, preceding its adaptation into forestry and industrial applications. In the year 897, Pope Stephen VI convened the Cadaver Synod in Rome, where the exhumed body of Pope Formosus was placed on trial. The corpse was dressed in papal vestments, seated in a court, and charged with perjury and violating canon law. After conviction, the body was stripped of its garments and thrown into the Tiber River. This event remains a documented instance of ecclesiastical posthumous prosecution. The heart of a blue whale weighs approximately 400 kilograms and can reach a size comparable to a small automobile. Acoustic studies conducted by marine biologists have recorded the heartbeat from distances exceeding 3 kilometers owing to its low-frequency propagation. This cardiovascular scale supports circulation across the largest known animal species, with adults reaching lengths of over 25 meters. In Japan, cube-shaped watermelons have been cultivated since the late 20th century using rigid, transparent molds. The method was developed to facilitate efficient storage and display in retail settings. These melons are typically harvested before reaching full maturity, rendering them inedible. Despite limited practical use, they remain popular as novelty items and are frequently sold at premium prices in domestic and export markets. Butterflies, classified under the order Lepidoptera, possess compound eyes capable of perceiving ultraviolet light. This sensory capacity enables detection of patterns used in pollination and mating that are invisible to the human eye. Species such as the cabbage white and monarch butterflies rely on these UV patterns for flower identification and intraspecies signaling, a phenomenon studied extensively since the mid-20th century. The scent released by freshly cut grass is caused by green leaf volatiles, airborne compounds including aldehydes, alcohols, and esters. These molecules are emitted from injured plant tissues as a chemical defense mechanism. Research in plant physiology shows they serve multiple functions, attracting predatory insects to herbivores, signaling nearby plants to enhance defenses, and initiating internal responses such as tissue repair. The word robot originated from the 1920 play RUR by Czech author Karel Čapek. The term is derived from the Slavic root robota, meaning forced labor or drudgery. In the play, artificial humanoid workers are created to serve humans, eventually rebelling. The word entered the global lexicon as a general term for mechanical automation and synthetic labor. Octopuses, members of the class Cephalopoda, possess chemoreceptors on their arms, enabling chemical sensing through physical contact. More than 2/3 of their neurons are distributed within the arms, rather than centralized in the brain. This decentralized nervous system allows localized decision-making and complex motor coordination, as demonstrated in multiple behavioral studies conducted since the mid-20th century. Sloths, classified under the suborder Folivora, are capable of holding their breath for up to 40 minutes. This is achieved through a significant reduction in heart rate, often dropping by over 30 beats per minute while submerged. In contrast, dolphins typically surface for air every 10 to 15 minutes. The sloth's adaptation is linked to its low metabolic rate and semi-aquatic behavior in tropical rainforests. A parasitic fungus from the genus Ophiocordyceps infects carpenter ants, manipulates their motor functions, and compels them to ascend vegetation. After anchoring themselves to a leaf or branch, the fungus kills the host and emerges from the head capsule to release spores. During a rabbit hunt organized by Napoleon Bonaparte, a large group of domesticated rabbits intended for release overwhelmed the event by charging at the participants. According to several accounts, the animals were not properly dispersed, leading to an uncontrolled and unexpected confrontation. Seismic activity on the moon, referred to as moonquakes, has been recorded by seismometers installed during the Apollo missions. Some of these quakes reached magnitudes sufficient to fracture bedrock, with events lasting up to 10 minutes due to the moon's dry, rigid crust. Trees form symbiotic relationships with mycorrhizal fungi, creating underground networks often termed the wood wide web. This system facilitates the transfer of nutrients, water, and chemical signals between individual plants, contributing to forest ecosystem resilience and communication. During the Second World War, the British Special Operations Executive developed an unconventional explosive device by filling rat carcasses with plastic explosives. The objective was to place these near enemy boilers, where they would detonate upon incineration. However, the operation was discovered before deployment. Sea otters exhibit a behavioral adaptation in which they hold forepaws while resting on the water's surface. This behavior prevents them from drifting apart due to tidal movement and maintains group cohesion during sleep. The human liver possesses a remarkable regenerative capacity. Clinical studies indicate that as little as 25% of a healthy liver can regenerate to full functional size, a capability attributed to the proliferation of hepatocytes and supportive stromal cells. DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, is a highly compact data storage medium. Research has demonstrated that 1 gram of DNA can theoretically encode over 200 petabytes of digital information due to its molecular structure, enabling dense, stable, and long-term storage of binary sequences. The name M&M's originates from the surnames of its founders, Forrest Mars and Bruce Murray. The candy was first produced in 1941 through a partnership between Mars, Inc. and Murray, son of the Hershey executive. The collaboration ensured chocolate supply during wartime rationing. Each candy's hard shell allowed it to resist melting in high temperatures, a functional design for military use during World War II. Goldfish possess the cognitive ability to distinguish between human faces. A 2016 study by the University of Oxford and the University of Queensland demonstrated that goldfish could correctly identify individual human images with over 80% accuracy after repeated exposure. These fish are also capable of associative learning, enabling them to perform simple tricks through reward-based training protocols involving repetition and stimulus recognition. In ancient China, moldy soybean curds were used to treat skin infections and wounds. This practice dates back over 1,000 years and utilized fermented glycine max, which naturally produced antibiotic compounds. Though not chemically identical to penicillin, the technique shares similarities with the concept of harnessing mold to inhibit bacterial growth. It predated Alexander Fleming's discovery of penicillin by centuries, reflecting early empirical use of microbial agents in medicine. According to population estimates, there are more plastic flamingos than real ones in the world. The artificial model, originally designed by Don Featherstone in 1957, has become a widely manufactured lawn ornament. In contrast, global wild flamingo populations, across species like Phenacopterus roseus and Phenacopsis ruber, total under 5 million. Mass production of the synthetic version has surpassed the biological count, creating a notable reversal in real-to-fake species presence. A 2005 study published in the Journal of Experimental Biology found that honeybees can recognize and differentiate human faces. Researchers trained bees to associate facial images with rewards and documented that the insects processed faces using a configural mechanism similar to human facial recognition software. Tomatoes were historically classified as poisonous in parts of 18th century Europe due to their inclusion in the Solanaceae family, which also contains toxic plants such as deadly nightshade. The fruit, often called poison apples, was suspected of causing illness when consumed from pewter plates, where tomato acidity leached lead. The misconception persisted until widespread culinary adoption in the 19th century confirmed their edibility and agricultural value. According to Guinness World Records, the longest wedding veil measured over 23,000 feet, specifically 23,993 feet and 6 inches. This veil, worn by Maria Paraskeva in Cyprus in 2018, was nearly 400 times her height. The veil's length required significant logistical coordination and surpassed the previous record by several kilometers, setting a benchmark in textile length for ceremonial garments. A widely discussed theory in planetary science proposes that Earth once had two moons. This hypothesis, known as the double moon theory, suggests that a smaller satellite collided with the larger moon approximately 4 billion years ago. The impact is believed to have created the lunar highlands, known today as the moon's far side. The model remains hypothetical, but is supported by simulations and geochemical analysis of lunar rock asymmetry. The blobfish maintains structural integrity in deep-sea environments due to extreme external pressure. At depths exceeding 600 meters, its gelatinous body is neutrally buoyant without the need for a swim bladder. When removed from that pressure, its tissues deform, resulting in a collapsed, amorphous appearance. The species' external form is therefore a function of bathyal zone adaptation rather than its actual biological anatomy. Ray Tomlinson sent the first electronic mail in 1971 between two ARPANET-connected machines. He used the @ symbol to separate the username from the host, creating the standard email format still in use today. The content of the test message was nonsensical, something like QWERTYUIOP, and served only to verify functionality. Tomlinson's work marked the beginning of digital interpersonal communication. Following the 1994 Northridge earthquake in Los Angeles, emergency services received numerous reports of an unusual silver cloud seen in the night sky. This phenomenon was later identified as the Milky Way galaxy. Due to extensive urban light pollution, many residents had never seen it before. The temporary blackout allowed for rare visibility of celestial objects, highlighting the extent of artificial sky glow in metropolitan areas. The term D-Day does not refer to a specific word, but serves as a placeholder in military planning to denote the launch date of an operation. Used in Allied documentation as early as World War I, it gained prominence with the Normandy landings on June 6, 1944. In military scheduling, D marks the day, while preceding or following days are labeled as D- or D+. Birds do not urinate in the conventional mammalian sense. Instead, they excrete nitrogenous waste as uric acid, which is relatively insoluble and expelled as a white paste. This compound is combined with fecal matter and expelled through the cloaca. The adaptation conserves water, which is critical for flight-capable species, and results in the characteristic white droppings commonly seen on surfaces beneath bird perches. In the Middle Ages, it was widely believed that touching a toad would cause warts. This misconception likely arose from the presence of wart-like glands on the toad's skin, particularly the parotoid glands. Despite lacking scientific basis, the belief persisted for centuries and remains part of modern folklore. Warts are caused by the human papillomavirus and are not transmitted through amphibian contact. Certain species of starfish, such as Lynchia multifora, exhibit complete regenerative capabilities. If a single arm contains part of the central disc, it can regenerate into a full organism. This form of asexual reproduction, known as fissiparity, has been documented in both wild and laboratory conditions, particularly in tropical marine environments. The average human, based on a daily walking estimate of 8,000 steps and a lifespan of approximately 80 years, will walk a total of around 184,000 kilometers. This distance is roughly equivalent to circumnavigating Earth 5 times along the equator, which measures about 40,075 kilometers. Volatile aromatic compounds in vanilla, particularly vanillin, have been shown to activate the limbic system in the brain. Functional MRI studies indicate a neurological response associated with mood and memory regulation. This physiological effect is attributed to the olfactory pathway's direct access to the amygdala and hippocampus, bypassing the thalamus. Records from ancient Rome indicate the use of crushed mouse brains in dental care. This material was mixed with other substances to create early toothpaste formulations. The practice was documented in medical texts attributed to Roman physicians such as Scribonius Largus during the 1st century, reflecting limited knowledge of hygiene and microbial disease. The pistol shrimp generates a high-velocity snap by closing its claw, creating a cavitation bubble that reaches temperatures exceeding 10,000 Kelvin. This temperature is comparable to the surface of the sun. The phenomenon produces a shock wave strong enough to stun or kill nearby prey and has been studied for its potential in underwater acoustics. The English word rhythms is considered the longest common word without any of the 5 traditional vowels A, E, I, O, U. It consists entirely of consonants and the letter Y, which functions as a vowel in this context. The term is used in both musical and biological contexts and contains 7 letters. Saturn's moon Titan, first visited by the Huygens probe in 2005, has surface lakes composed primarily of liquid methane and ethane. These hydrocarbon reservoirs exist due to Titan's surface temperatures, which average approximately 94 Kelvin. The lakes are concentrated near the Moon's polar regions and are part of a methane-based hydrological cycle. The Anglo-Zanzibar War occurred on August 27, 1896. Hostilities began at 9 in the morning and ended at 9:38, making it the shortest recorded war in history. The British forces bombarded the Sultan's palace, resulting in over 500 casualties on the Zanzibari side. British losses were limited to 1 wounded sailor. The sound effect used for Darth Vader's breathing in the Star Wars films was created using a scuba regulator. Sound designer Ben Burt recorded the noise by placing a microphone inside a diving mask and connecting it to a rebreather. The effect debuted in the original film, released in 1977. Sharks possess a cartilaginous skeleton composed entirely of connective tissue rather than bone. This anatomical structure is lighter and more flexible than osseous material, enabling buoyancy and agility. Species across the subclass Elasmobranchi, including great white and hammerhead sharks, demonstrate this adaptation, which distinguishes them from bony fish in the class Osteichthyes. In Japan, the Naki Sumo Festival involves sumo wrestlers holding infants and encouraging them to cry. The event is based on the traditional belief that a crying child is healthy and will be protected from evil spirits. The practice is centuries old and continues to be observed annually at temples such as the Sensoji Temple in Tokyo. Apples float in water due to internal air pockets, which make up approximately 25% of the fruit's volume. This characteristic results in a lower average density than water, causing buoyancy. The phenomenon is commonly observed during recreational activities such as apple bobbing. The original oranges, particularly the Southeast Asian variety known as Citrus reticulata, were green in color. These early cultivars maintained their chlorophyll pigmentation in warmer climates. The orange hue commonly associated with the fruit emerged through hybridization and exposure to cooler temperatures, which reduce chlorophyll levels and reveal carotenoid pigments. The Great Fire of London began on September 2, 1666, in a bakery on Pudding Lane. The fire lasted 4 days, destroying over 13,000 buildings, including St. Paul's Cathedral. Despite the extensive structural damage, only 6 deaths were officially recorded, although the actual number may have been higher due to undocumented casualties. On August 15, 1977, a radio signal later termed the WOW signal was detected by Dr. Jerry R. Eman using Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope. The signal lasted 72 seconds and originated from the constellation Sagittarius. It has never been observed again and remains unexplained despite multiple subsequent search efforts. The term spaghettification refers to the theoretical process that occurs near a black hole's event horizon where tidal forces stretch matter into elongated shapes. This occurs due to the gravitational gradient between the object's near and far sides. The concept is derived from general relativity and has been described in academic works on black hole physics. Certain species of frogs, such as the wood frog, can survive sub-zero temperatures by entering a state of suspended animation. During winter, their bodies freeze, and metabolic activity ceases. They thaw in spring and resume normal function. This adaptation is facilitated by high concentrations of glucose and urea acting as cryoprotectants. Fred Bohr, the food scientist who developed the iconic Pringles can in the 1960s, requested that a portion of his ashes be buried in one after his death in 2008. His family honored the request, placing the can in the burial plot along with a traditional urn. The can was an original red Pringles container. The human stomach regenerates its epithelial lining approximately every 3 to 5 days. This rapid cellular turnover prevents the stomach from digesting itself, as gastric acid contains hydrochloric acid with a pH as low as 1.5. The mucosal barrier, composed of bicarbonate-rich mucus and tight junctions between epithelial cells, plays a critical role in maintaining the integrity of the stomach wall under constant chemical exposure. The original version of Monopoly, designed by Lizzie Magie in 1903, was called the Landlord's Game. It aimed to demonstrate the negative aspects of wealth concentration and monopolistic practices. The game contrasted two rule sets, one promoting cooperation and the other rewarding monopolies. Charles Darrow later commercialized a modified version through Parker Brothers in 1935, removing the original socio-economic critique. The number of possible legal chess positions is estimated to exceed 10 to the power of 120, a figure known as the Shannon number. By contrast, estimates place the number of atoms in the observable universe at roughly 10 to the power of 80. This combinatorial complexity arises from the game's 20 initial possible first moves and exponential variation with each subsequent turn. In 2015, Dr. J. Calvin Coffey and colleagues at the University of Limerick reclassified the mesentery as a continuous organ in the human digestive system. Previously considered fragmented structures, mesenteric folds were shown to form an uninterrupted tissue connecting the intestines to the abdominal wall. This finding, based on microscopic and imaging data, prompted updates to medical textbooks and anatomical classification systems. The term French fries refers to the culinary technique of Frenching, or cutting food into thin strips. The origin of the fried potato dish is commonly attributed to Belgium, where it was documented as early as the late 17th century. American soldiers during World War I popularized the term French fries after encountering the food in French-speaking regions of Belgium. Onions contain sulfur-containing compounds, primarily syn-propaneths oxide. When the onion's cell walls are disrupted, these molecules are released and converted by the enzyme alliinase into a volatile gas. Upon reaching the eyes, the gas reacts with water to form mild sulfuric acid, which irritates the lacrimal glands and triggers tear production as a defensive response. In ancient Egypt, written records and depictions suggest that honey was applied to the skin of servants to attract flies. This method functioned as a human decoy system to protect high-status individuals, including pharaohs, from insect irritation. Honey's high sugar content and viscosity made it an effective fly attractant in the arid climate of the Nile Valley. When a person experiences facial blushing due to vasodilation triggered by emotional stimuli, the same autonomic response extends to the stomach's inner lining. Blood vessels in the gastric mucosa also dilate, causing a reddening effect. This physiological response is controlled by the sympathetic nervous system and is part of the broader fight-or-flight mechanism. Slime molds, such as Physarum polycephalum, exhibit decentralized problem-solving abilities. In controlled experiments, they have successfully navigated mazes and replicated efficient networks, such as Japan's rail system. Their method relies on chemotactic movement and spatial memory through protoplasmic streaming, enabling them to optimize paths without a central nervous system, outperforming some computational algorithms in route efficiency. A Babylonian tablet from around 1500 BCE, housed in the British Museum, contains the oldest known example of a "your mother" insult. Written in Akkadian cuneiform, the line is partially damaged, but references humor involving a maternal subject. It demonstrates that structured insult-based humor has existed for over 35 centuries in recorded human language. In Iceland, the tradition known as Jólabókaflóð, or Christmas book flood, involves giving books as gifts on December 24th. This cultural practice began during World War II, when paper was one of the few imports not rationed. The Icelandic publishing industry continues to release most of its annual book output in November and December to align with this national reading custom. The word clue originates from the Middle English term clue, meaning a ball of thread. Its modern figurative meaning traces back to the Greek myth of Theseus, who used a thread to navigate the labyrinth and escape after slaying the Minotaur. Over time, clue evolved into clue, signifying something that guides or solves a problem. The human body contains approximately 37 trillion cells, including red blood cells, epithelial cells, and neurons. In parallel, it hosts an estimated 39 trillion microbial organisms, mainly bacteria, within the gut microbiome. These microbial cells outnumber human cells and play essential roles in digestion, immunity, and metabolic regulation, particularly through the production of enzymes and short-chain fatty acids. Elephants detect seismic vibrations through mechanoreceptors located in their feet and trunk. These low-frequency ground signals, often generated by distant movements or vocalizations, are transmitted through the earth and interpreted by the animal's somatosensory system. Studies suggest elephants can detect vibrations from several kilometers away, aiding in navigation and herd communication. The Earth's inner core, composed primarily of iron and nickel, reaches temperatures estimated at approximately 6,000 degrees Celsius. This thermal estimate is based on experimental data from high-pressure studies and seismological models. Despite extreme heat, the inner core remains solid due to immense pressure exceeding 3 million atmospheres at the planet's center. Peanuts are classified botanically as legumes, not true nuts. They belong to the Fabaceae family and develop underground through geocarpy. In contrast, tree nuts like almonds or walnuts form from ovary walls of flowering plants. Peanuts share characteristics with other legumes, such as lentils and beans, including nitrogen-fixing root nodules. The heart of a hummingbird can beat more than 1,200 times per minute during flight. This exceptionally high rate supports the bird's intense metabolic demands while hovering or feeding. Species such as the ruby-throated hummingbird maintain elevated oxygen delivery through rapid circulation and specialized respiratory efficiency, allowing sustained wing movement at rates of over 50 beats per second in mid-air. Human bodies emit a faint glow, known as bioluminescence, though it is roughly 1,000 times too dim to be seen by the naked eye. This light results from chemical reactions involving free radicals and biomolecules such as lipids. In 2009, Japanese researchers used ultra-sensitive cameras to photograph this phenomenon, confirming that emission levels vary slightly over a 24-hour cycle and peak in the late afternoon. So if even tiny light emissions know how to show up on schedule, make sure you show up on my subscriber list. Hit that button before your glow fades away. Newborn humans typically do not produce visible tears for the first few weeks after birth. Although their lacrimal glands are present, they are not fully developed and do not produce the volume of liquid needed for tear overflow. Reflex tearing, which responds to irritation or emotion, usually begins between 2 to 3 weeks after birth, depending on individual variation and environmental conditions. While identical twins share identical DNA, their fingerprints are never exactly the same. The ridge patterns develop in utero through a combination of genetic and environmental factors, including pressure, blood flow, and amniotic movement. This means that even with shared genetic code, the fingerprints of monozygotic twins display small but measurable differences under forensic analysis. Estimates suggest that the average adult spends roughly 6 months of their life waiting at red traffic lights. This projection is based on cumulative daily commuting times in urban environments and assumes standard light cycles. While it varies by location and driving habits, the figure offers a useful approximation of how modern transportation infrastructure impacts time use. Because of the way the Gregorian calendar handles leap years, the weekday on which your birthday falls usually repeats every 6 years, but the interval can sometimes be 5, 7, or 11 years, depending on your birth date and the leap year pattern. This happens because leap years add an extra day every 4 years, causing the weekday of your birthday to shift in a predictable cycle over time. Well, maybe this goes over your head. It definitely did for me. Humming while holding the nose is physically impossible due to the mechanics of airflow. Humming requires continuous air resonance in the nasal passages, and pinching the nose closes off that space. Without a nasal outlet, the pressure buildup halts vibration, preventing sound generation. This is a simple example of how human vocalization depends on unobstructed anatomical structures. The word avocado originates from the Nahuatl term ahuacatl, which translates to testicle. The name likely refers to the fruit's shape and was adopted into Spanish during the colonial period. The Aztecs associated the fruit with fertility, and it was cultivated as early as 5000 BCE in regions that now include southern Mexico and Guatemala. Studies have shown that the scent of chocolate can increase theta brainwave activity, which is associated with states of relaxation and reduced stress. These effects have been observed using electroencephalography, EEG, a method that records electrical activity in the brain. The response may be linked to both olfactory stimulation and emotional associations formed through repeated exposure. The longest documented flight of a chicken lasted approximately 13 seconds and covered a distance of over 90 meters. This record, though limited compared to most bird species, highlights the capacity for short bursts of powered flight in certain breeds. Most domesticated chickens are selectively bred for meat or egg production, which limits their aerodynamic abilities. Young elephants often suck their trunks for comfort, a behavior similar to human infants sucking their thumbs. This action helps soothe them and may assist in sensory development. Trunk sucking has been observed in both wild and captive populations and generally decreases as the calf matures and gains better trunk control for feeding and interaction. As of recent estimates, there are more public libraries than McDonald's restaurants in the United States. Data from the American Library Association indicates over 16,000 public library locations compared to roughly 13,000 fast food outlets. Libraries serve as community resources, offering free access to books, internet, and educational programs across urban and rural areas. The human nose is capable of detecting over 1 trillion different scents, based on a 2014 study published in Science. This estimate significantly exceeds earlier beliefs that the nose could detect around 10,000 odors. The olfactory system uses roughly 400 active receptor types, each interacting with multiple odor molecules through complex combinatorial coding. Armillaria ostoyi, a species of honey fungus located in Oregon's Malheur National Forest, is currently considered the largest living organism by area. The underground mycelial network spans nearly 4 square miles and is genetically identical throughout. Estimated to be thousands of years old, this fungus lives symbiotically with trees, sometimes contributing to root rot in forest ecosystems. Although the human brain makes up only about 2% of total body mass, it consumes roughly 20% of the body's energy. This high energy demand supports continuous electrical activity, neurotransmitter synthesis, and metabolic functions. The majority of this energy is used for signaling between neurons, especially in regions involved in decision-making, memory, and perception. On Saturn's moon Enceladus, high-velocity geysers eject water vapor and ice particles from a subterranean ocean through surface fractures near the South Pole. First observed by the Cassini spacecraft in 2005, these plumes contain organic compounds and molecular hydrogen. NASA has since listed Enceladus as a candidate for extraterrestrial microbial life, pending, of course, a very long-distance confirmation. The Great Wall of China is not, in fact, a single continuous structure. It consists of multiple segments built by various dynasties between the 7th century BCE and the 17th century CE. Spanning over 21,000 kilometers, much of the wall now exists in fragments, making it perhaps the least unified structure in history. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station orbit Earth every 92 minutes, resulting in roughly 16 sunrises and 16 sunsets per 24-hour terrestrial day. The phenomenon is caused by orbital velocity, not poor scheduling. Window blinds are provided. Some leafcutter ants, such as those from the genus Atta, cultivate fungal gardens underground and apply naturally derived antimicrobial secretions to prevent contamination. The practice predates human agriculture by tens of millions of years and includes compartmentalized waste zones. The ants have not yet developed crop rotation. Vikings are believed to have used birefringent crystals known as sunstones to locate the sun's position under overcast skies. These calcite or cordierite stones functioned by polarizing light, serving as a navigational aid in the absence of actual sunlight. This technique, discovered centuries before GPS, did not require satellites, only an appropriately cloudy sky. Elephants have passed the mirror self-recognition test, indicating a level of cognitive self-awareness. In one study, elephants touched visible markings on their own bodies while looking in a mirror. The test, originally developed for primates, has so far failed to interest cats. A cat's purr generates vibrations between 20 and 140 hertz, a frequency range associated with bone and soft tissue regeneration in mammals. Some researchers have speculated that this acoustic feature may have therapeutic applications for humans, assuming the patient is willing to be purred on. The mantis shrimp employs a spring-loaded appendage to deliver strikes reaching speeds of 80 kilometers per hour. The impact generates cavitation bubbles that momentarily produce temperatures hotter than the sun's surface. It also sees ultraviolet and polarized light. The shrimp, not the sun. Tomatoes contain approximately 31,000 genes, exceeding the human genome by roughly 11,000. This includes sequences responsible for traits like fruit shape, color, and flavor. The fruit does not appear to use its surplus for moral introspection. A typical cumulus cloud contains about 500,000 kilograms of water, equivalent to roughly 800,000 standard bathtubs. Fortunately, it does not fall all at once. Atmospheric physics remains grateful. Sea otters often store a preferred rock in a skin fold beneath their forearms and reuse it to break open shellfish. The tool is carried, hidden, and regularly used, placing it in a small but committed category of personal belongings among marine mammals. The ancient city of Troy, long dismissed as myth, was excavated in the 1870s by Heinrich Schliemann in what is now northwestern Turkey. Layered ruins revealed a history consistent with Homeric descriptions, suggesting that the line between epic poetry and archaeology may be thinner than previously assumed. Zebras have black skin and grow white stripes due to pigment-inhibiting mechanisms in specific hair follicles. Embryological studies confirm the base coat is black, meaning the stripes are technically an absence of color, rendering the zebra the world's most elaborately unpainted horse. The Mariana Trench, located in the western Pacific Ocean, contains the deepest known natural point in Earth's seabed, known as the Challenger Deep. This point reaches an approximate depth of 10,984 meters, based on measurements recorded by the DSV limiting factor in 2019. By comparison, Mount Everest has a height of 8,848 meters, making the trench significantly deeper than the mountain is tall. In 2022, researchers at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel, led by Dr. Jacob Hanna, developed synthetic mouse embryos using only pluripotent stem cells. The process excluded the use of fertilized eggs, sperm cells, or a uterus. The engineered embryos exhibited early organ development, including a neural tube and beating heart, and survived up to 8.5 days in an artificial womb, marking a significant advancement in synthetic embryology. During the medieval period in Europe, bestiaries, illustrated compendiums of animals, propagated the myth that beavers would sever and discard their testicles to escape hunters. This belief, first recorded in classical antiquity, was based on the erroneous notion that beaver castoreum glands, located near the tail, were testicles and highly sought for medicinal use. No empirical evidence supports the behavior. Olfactory studies indicate that the aroma of cinnamon enhances cognitive performance. Controlled trials have shown improvements in working memory, attention, and visual motor response speed. These effects are attributed to the stimulation of brain regions, such as the hippocampus and frontal cortex, as observed in neuroimaging and electrophysiological assessments. Some observational studies have suggested that certain bat species may show directional preferences when exiting their roosts, but there is no consistent or universal pattern, such as always turning left, across all bat species. The reasons for any observed directional bias remain unclear and may involve factors like roost structure, environmental cues, or species-specific behaviors. More controlled experimental research is needed to determine whether such preferences are widespread or significant within the order Chiroptera. In microgravity environments, such as those aboard the International Space Station, combustion behaves differently due to the absence of buoyancy-driven convection. Flames assume spherical shapes because heated gases do not rise, and the flame envelope is sustained by the slow diffusion of oxygen. This phenomenon has been documented in NASA's flame extinguishment experiment and informs spacecraft fire safety protocols. Before the invention of rubber-based erasers in the late 18th century, individuals commonly used pieces of crustless bread as an abrasive to remove graphite marks from paper. The bread was compressed and dried to increase firmness. Edward Nairn is credited with commercializing the rubber eraser in 1770 after discovering its efficacy as a substitute for bread. Toilet paper is believed to have been first produced in China during the late 9th century. Historical records from around 875 AD mention the use of paper specifically for hygiene purposes in the Tang dynasty. While other cultures used materials like wool, leaves, or water, China was the earliest known civilization to manufacture paper products intended solely for personal sanitation. The precise burial site of Genghis Khan remains undetermined. Historical sources from the 13th century describe secretive burial procedures, reportedly involving the execution of laborers to maintain confidentiality. Archaeological surveys, including satellite imaging and ground-penetrating radar, have yet to confirm the tomb's location. The legend persists largely through oral traditions and unverified historical texts. The average lightning bolt reaches temperatures of approximately 30,000 Kelvin. This thermal energy exceeds the estimated surface temperature of the Sun, which is around 5,778 Kelvin. The extreme heat results from rapid ionization of air molecules during the discharge, producing a plasma channel visible as a lightning flash. Experimental studies have demonstrated that pigeons possess advanced visual discrimination capabilities. In controlled settings, pigeons have successfully identified all 26 letters of the English alphabet and distinguished between human faces. These findings indicate robust pattern recognition and memory faculties, placing pigeons among the more cognitively complex avian species. Gallium, a post-transition metal with atomic number 31, has a melting point of 29.76 Celsius, which is below average human body temperature. When held in the hand, gallium transitions from solid to liquid phase due to thermal conductivity. This property is used in low melting point alloys and semiconductor applications. Constructed from copper sheets approximately 2.4 millimeters thick, the Statue of Liberty initially exhibited the metal's characteristic reddish-brown color following its completion in 1886. Over time, exposure to air and moisture induced oxidation and the formation of a green patina composed primarily of copper carbonate. This layer provides protection against further corrosion. It would take nearly 2 million mosquito bites to drain 2 liters of blood from a human body. Since a single mosquito removes only about 5 microliters of blood per bite, reaching that dangerous volume would require a massive number of bites. 2 liters is considered a critical loss and can cause severe medical emergencies, including hypovolemic shock. Twister was among the first films ever released on DVD, marking a shift in home entertainment formats when it debuted in 1996. The launch helped establish DVD as a mainstream distribution medium, offering improved video and audio quality over VHS tapes. This milestone set the stage for the widespread transition to digital video media in the early 2000s. Roughly 205,000 metric tons of gold have been mined throughout all of recorded history. If all of it were melted down and shaped into a solid cube, that cube would measure approximately 22 meters along each edge. The Internal Revenue Service in the United States does not typically process single checks exceeding $100 million. If someone owes more than that, they must split the amount into multiple checks or use an electronic payment system such as wire transfer. This policy exists to reduce processing issues and enhance transaction security at such high payment levels. Fox tossing was a real competitive activity in 17th and 18th century Europe, especially in regions like Saxony. Participants used slings to hurl live foxes into the air for both distance and height, often during aristocratic festivals. Injuries and fatalities among the animals were common, but the practice was socially accepted at the time, despite its cruelty by modern standards. The durian fruit, grown in Southeast Asian countries such as Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand, is infamous for its strong and often unpleasant odor. Its smell has been likened to sewage, spoiled onions, or gym socks, leading to bans in hotels and public transport. Despite this, durian remains a culturally significant and highly prized fruit in local cuisines. That's it for this one. No clickbait, no distractions, just real facts you won't hear in most places. If even one of them made you pause or think differently, this video did its job. More are on the way. Smarter, sharper, and always backed by reality. Until then, thanks for watching, and stay curious.